You wake up in the morning with a clear intention. Today's going to be different. You're going to start that project, study properly, maybe even fix your routine. For a moment, everything feels possible. You can almost picture your future self, successful, confident, disciplined. But then you reach for your phone, just for a minute. And somehow that minute turns into an hour, then another. By the end of the day, nothing really changes. And at night, you feel that quiet frustration again. Because deep down, you do want success. You're not someone who doesn't care. So why does it feel like you're constantly holding yourself back? Why do you want something so badly and still struggle to take action? Most people answer this question in the simplest way possible. They say, I'm just lazy. It sounds logical. If you're not doing the work, you must be lazy, right? But here's the strange part. Truly lazy people don't think like you. They don't sit at night feeling guilty about wasted time. They don't imagine a better future and feel frustrated that they're not moving toward it. That internal conflict you feel, the tension between what you want and what you do, that's not laziness. It's something deeper. Because if you really look at your behavior, it's not that you can't work hard. There are moments when you do focus. There are times when you feel motivated and productive. So the real question is not, why am I lazy? It's, why does my motivation disappear so easily? To understand this, you need to understand how your mind actually works. Inside your brain, there are two very different forces constantly pulling you in opposite directions. One part of your mind is focused on the future. This is the part that dreams, plans, and imagines possibilities. It's the voice that says, I want to improve my life. I want to achieve something meaningful. This part of you is ambitious. It's hopeful. It thinks long term. But there's another part of your mind that lives completely in the present. This part doesn't care about your future goals. It only cares about one thing, how you feel right now. And its main job is simple: keep you safe, comfortable, and away from anything that feels difficult or uncertain. So when you think about doing something important, starting a new habit, working toward a goal, trying something challenging, your future-focused mind says, this will help us grow. But your present-focused mind immediately responds, this feels uncomfortable. Let's avoid it. And here's the problem. The present always feels stronger than the future. Your future self is just an idea, but your current emotions are real. So even if you truly want success, your brain naturally pulls you toward what feels easier in the moment. That's why it's so easy to scroll through your phone. There's no pressure, no risk, no effort. But when you think about doing something meaningful, your brain starts asking questions. What if you fail? What if you're not good enough? What if it takes too long? These thoughts create discomfort, and your brain doesn't like discomfort. So instead of forcing you to stop completely, it uses a more subtle strategy. It tells you, let's just do it later. Not never, just later. And that's what makes it so dangerous, because later feels reasonable. It doesn't sound like giving up. But when later keeps repeating, days turn into weeks and nothing changes. Over time, this creates a pattern. You start associating important tasks with stress and avoidance, and you start associating distractions with relief. So your brain learns something very simple. Discomfort equals avoid. Easy reward equals repeat. And without realizing it, you train yourself into a cycle. The more you avoid, the harder it becomes to start. The harder it becomes to start, the more you avoid. And slowly, you begin to believe something that isn't even true. I'm just lazy. But this belief creates another problem, because once you label yourself as lazy, you stop trusting yourself. You start thinking, what's the point of trying? I'll probably fail again. And that thought kills motivation before you even begin. So now it's not just a habit anymore. It becomes part of your identity. And changing an identity is much harder than changing a habit. But there's still another layer to this. Your brain is designed to chase rewards, not just any rewards, fast rewards, things that make you feel good immediately. Social media, entertainment, quick distractions, these all give your brain small bursts of pleasure, and they do it instantly. But success doesn't work like that. Success is slow. It requires effort now for a reward later. So your brain constantly compares two options. Option one, work hard, feel discomfort, and maybe get results in the future. Option two, feel good instantly with no effort. And most of the time, your brain chooses the second option. Not because you don't care about success, but because your brain is wired to prioritize immediate comfort. That's why it's so easy to spend hours doing things that don't really matter while avoiding the one thing that could actually change your life. It's not a lack of ambition, it's a conflict between short-term comfort and long-term goals. And once you understand this, something important becomes clear. The problem isn't that you're lazy, the problem is that your environment, your habits, and your brain are all working together to make inaction easier than action. But there's one more truth that most people don't realize. Sometimes what looks like laziness is actually fear. When something truly matters to you, it also becomes risky. Because if you try and fail, it feels personal. It feels like proof that you're not good enough. So your brain finds a way to protect you from that feeling. It keeps you in a safe zone where you don't have to test yourself, because as long as you don't fully try, you never fully fail. And that feels safer. So instead of asking, why am I so lazy? A better question is, what am I trying to avoid? Is it failure, judgment, uncertainty? Because once you identify that, you start to see your behavior differently. You're not avoiding work, you're avoiding a feeling, and that changes everything. Now here's where things start to shift. Because once you understand that your brain is trying to protect you, you can stop fighting it and start working with it. Instead of forcing yourself to take huge steps, you make things smaller, so small that your brain doesn't resist. Instead of saying, I need to work for 2 hours, you say, I'll just start for 5 minutes. That feels easy. And once you start, something interesting happens. The resistance fades. Because the hardest part is not doing the work, it's starting the work. And once you're in motion, it becomes easier to keep going. Another shift comes from changing your environment. If distractions are always around you, your brain will always choose them. So instead of relying on willpower, you remove the easy options. You make focus easier than distraction. And suddenly, your behavior starts to change without forcing yourself. But maybe the most important shift is how you see yourself. You stop saying, I'm lazy, and you start saying, I'm learning how my brain works. Because the moment you remove that negative label, you create space for change. You stop fighting yourself and start understanding yourself. And when you understand your mind, you gain control over your actions. Not instantly, not perfectly, but gradually. And that's enough. Because success isn't built in one big moment. It's built in small actions repeated consistently. So the next time you feel lazy, pause for a second. Don't judge yourself. Just notice what's happening. Notice the resistance. Notice the thoughts. Notice the urge to avoid. And then take one small step anyway. Not because you feel motivated, but because you understand what's happening inside your mind. Because the truth is, you don't need more motivation. You need more awareness. Awareness of how your brain works. Awareness of why you avoid things. Awareness of what actually drives your behavior. Once you have that, you stop seeing yourself as someone who is lazy, and you start seeing yourself as someone who is learning how to take control. And that's where real change begins. Because maybe the problem was never laziness at all. Maybe it was just a misunderstanding of your mind, your habits, and the hidden forces that shape your behavior every day. And once you understand those forces, you realize something powerful. You were never stuck, you were just unaware.